Johnson heads to the pocket. Layup. Johnson, good.
All right, welcome everybody. It's time to talk sports with me, Chris Powers. Jonathan's in the house. Marty's in the house. We've got lots to do today, lots to talk about. We're going to talk about the New Orleans Saints and their first preseason game. Of course, football is coming close with week zero, just 2 weeks from this Saturday. A week from this Saturday, 2 weeks for LSU in week one. And we're also going to talk about the tiers in college football for the SEC, tiers 3 and 4 and tiers 1 and 2. We'll do that again coming up. We'll also talk about other things that are going on in the sports world. All that as we get closer and closer to the football season. NFL season now is the second week of preseason is done. Saints had their first week. We'll talk about the quarterback situation and find out where they stand as far as that goes. And a couple of injuries on the offensive line happened this weekend. That's the third player injured this year so far for the New Orleans Saints at the offensive line spot. So we'll talk more about that coming up here in just a moment. But first we lead off with LSU, of course, J.T. Lindsey, running back. Now, here's the deal. You know, that's one thing to move out of your neighborhood. Congratulations. And J.T. Lindsey, a running back, he's a freshman. He's done things right. He's played good in high school. He's one of the top recruits. He comes in with a lot of, store power and a chance to really do well on the collegiate level and maybe into the NFL level. You left that life, that bad life, the bad neighborhood and what have you. But you can't take that with you. It's only geography. You have to be able to make sure that you don't take home with you the dirt that you left your neighborhood for. Look at Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk immediately knew he grew up in a bad neighborhood in New Orleans, and what he wanted to do, he sold popcorn to the Superdome, and then he also got away, went to San Diego State. Now, there's a reason he went to San Diego State, and simply because of the fact that LSU thought he would be a defensive back, and several other teams did the same thing. So he said, I want to be a running back, and he went to San Diego State. The Honey Badger would have won the Heisman Trophy his big year, his junior season, if he had not gotten in problems with the marijuana. So when he was drafted by the Cardinals, good thing he had Patrick Peterson there, a former LSU great, to guide him. And Bruce Arians, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, said, I want you to be his shadow at every second. He goes to the bathroom, you're there. You hand him a toilet paper if you got to. Sorry to be discreet, but look, you're everywhere with him. You're going to go everywhere with this guy. Because Honey Badger kind of wanted to get away, even in Arizona, kind of get away. But Patrick Peterson kept leaning on him to be straight. And guess what? He turned out to be a model citizen. So if I was, and he's already done it, if I'm Coach Brian Kelly, I have him come and talk to the players again. Now, he's already talked to them. It was either last year or the year before. He came and he talked to the players. But this is the second running back in 2 seasons that this is happening. Trey Holly now is with the Southern University Jaguars. I don't think he'll ever go back to LSU. He got suspended until his legal problems are done. So what happens with J.T. Lindsey, the running back? He's got 2 of his friends who committed a murder in Alexandria, Louisiana, the central part of the state, and came to his dorm at LSU and bunked with him for 2 weeks. And what they bring? The murder weapons. Goodness Christ, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, you have an opportunity, if you give that blood, sweat, and tears to be one of the best running backs, period, not only in the state but everywhere, and you're going to throw it away because of some thugs that are your friends, and you're going to still hang around when you know they're bad. This is not nothing they woke up, you know what, we've never killed anybody, let's go do it now. These guys have been bad all their lives, and you let them around you? But the problem is, in this situation, JT's father is nowhere to be found. And the reason we can know that is because of the fact when he went to jail, when he turned himself into jail, his lawyer and his mom was present. See, there's a difference when it comes to mom and dad. See, for my sister has 2 nephews. They love my sister, but they didn't fear her. They didn't totally fear her because it's mom. I didn't fear my mom. What do you got? Mom would whip me. I'm from that age where I got whipped. But for my dad and my grandfather, I'll tell you what my grandfather told me. He said, you see your last name? And I told my son the exact same thing. You see your last name? My last name is that. If it's in the newspaper that you got arrested or anything like that, when the officer comes to you and tell you now it's time to go see the judge for bail, tell him you deny it. I do not want bail. Because when you're released out of that jail, you'd rather stay in jail to face me or my grandfather. And I told my son that. I'm telling you right now, get your toothbrush and your pillow ready, brother. You better stay in that damn jail and you better not come out. Because if you get arrested for anything stupid, you're going to come see me, bud. I guarantee you're going to wish you went to Alcatraz or you went to freaking Angola. But see, that's the thing. When the problem is when the mother is raising the son, he doesn't fear the mom. He didn't fear her beatings or her punishment or anything like that. I'm hoping that JT has not ruined his life by this. But and why was it the Trey Holly situation that made news and headlines everywhere? And he's not far from Grant Parish. Alexandria is not far from Grant Parish. Why wouldn't you learn from that? Why wouldn't you learn from that? So now he's gone. He's suspended from the team, and the court system will be a little faster here than it will be in Grant Parish, but at the same time, the court system runs slow. They're behind on cases like big time. So your chances of playing this year are out because you did something stupid. Again, you can't just leave the neighborhood, but yet bring the neighborhood to you. That's dumb as a fence post. I don't care how smart you are in college or in high school, wherever you are. That's dumb as a fence post. You cannot do that. And if you do, this is what happens. Like I said, these guys did not just wake up in the morning and decide, you know what? I'm going to go kill somebody. They did it they've been that bad for a long time. So what happens is Juwan Johnson, who is quarterback, listed at quarterback this year, and he was also defensive back. He's a guy that can play all over the football field. He's got unbelievable talent. The only thing he probably couldn't play is defensive and offensive line. He's going to move to running back again like he did last year because of the Trey Holly situation. They were going to use him in a situation, and they still can, as a versatile quarterback. And they still can. He can throw the football out of the backfield and do whatever he wants. Absolutely unbelievable. I think it's crazy. And LSU's down now 3 scholarship players and the running back spot. Now you got Juwan Johnson moving over. There you got your 4 back again. But again, is he a bruising back that can run right up the middle, right in the A gap or the B gap? Don't know. Garrett Nussmeier looking great, as wide receivers also looking great as well. The internet went nuts last week. The Garrett Nussmeier was injured. And again, that's social media. If you get your news from social media, that's where you're going to go stupid. Because social media is people that are not held to accountability. Period. They're not held to accountability. To where if you're in a news agency, you can get sued. Go ask CBS when Trump sued him, and ABC almost just got sued by the First Lady, Melania Trump. All right, defense is looking good. Defensive coordinator Blake Baker says that the defense is fast and they're having fun playing the game. Their linebackers with the Week brothers look good, along with Perkins. Weeks and Perkins look good right now after their year of their injury. So they're back. LSU is 2 weeks away, coming this Saturday, so more than likely they're going to start implementing the kind of somewhat of the game plan next week. They'll have 2 weeks to prepare, and they're going into a top 10 matchup. Clemson is expected to be pretty damn good. Now, the question is, because they had a lot of players returning this year, so the question is, and LSU on the road. And look, we all know the real Death Valley. We've said that before. The real Death Valley is at Tiger Stadium. However, Clemson also is a pretty good atmosphere as well. There's no question about that. When they run down, touch the rock, run down the hill, and I can't believe, Jonathan, in all the games at Clemson, not one player has fallen down, and if one player falls down, it's a chain reaction. I can't believe one player has not fallen down that hill.
Yeah, Chris, that's a great point. And I'm waiting for Dabo Swinney to take a spill one time because he leads the charge coming down full speed down that hill. It doesn't seem too safe. You don't want to pull a hammy or twist an ankle coming down, but it is tradition. I'm sure they practice it, so it's not something new on game day. But that LSU defense has looked pretty special so far in camp. Coach Blake Baker, they brought in a lot of tools to help him form a defense that kind of represents what he wants to do. Rush the passer with 4, not have to bring exotic blitzes, but they can also blitz. Harold Perkins looks like an absolute stud out there. According to the coaches, it's like he never had knee surgery. He's moving very fluid. Him and Weeks together alike, both coming back from injury. But that defensive line is going to be the strong suit for this LSU football team. You bring in guys like Jack Pyburn, Patrick Payton for Florida State. And look, this team's going to get after the quarterback. The linebacker spot is going to be a strong suit, but it starts up front. And they're going to have to stop the run early. Clemson has a great defense as well. Good on the defensive line, defensive tackle, defensive end. Outstanding quarterback to look to move the football. AP poll put them at number 4 in the nation, so it will be a top 10 matchup as a lot of people expected it. The first true road test for Coach Brian Kelly going into year 4. 0-3 so far in game 1, but those have been neutral site games. This is the first real road test with a top 5 team at night, prime time. It's going to be a heck of an environment, and you hope LSU has the chin straps ready because they have to start off better this season if they want those playoff aspirations to come true later on this season.
No question about that. They're putting so much emphasis on that first game. We have never had 4 top 10 matchups in the first week. That's absolutely crazy. Number 22, Iowa State. Number 17, Kansas State. Will start it out at 11 a.m. on that Saturday. And then, obviously, also right there at 11 is number 1, Texas, and number 3, Ohio State. And, by the way, like a lot of people are complaining, the Fox noon kickoff is killing Ohio State football. It's killing it because it's too early in the morning. The big matchups, the big games are that noon kickoff, and it's killing them. So that's crazy. Then you have number 9, LSU, taking on number 4, Clemson. That's the third matchup, but that is the one that'll be on national TV. And then, obviously, you've got number 6, Notre Dame, against number 10, Miami, at Miami on that Sunday. So that's going to be huge. I mean, are you kidding me? 4 top 10 matchups in week 1 of college football. I mean, you can't beat that. Are you kidding? I mean, if the grass needs cutting, if the grass is over like Katrina levels over the roof, put it off. Put it off. And then you've got that week to relax because the next week is the Saints and LSU. Saints kick off September 7th. So big football weekend that week. Of course, week 0 starts next week. Southern University will start it on next Saturday, 6:30 from Atlanta against North Carolina Central. All right, when we come back, what are the top tiers in college football, or in the SEC at least? Tiers 3 and 4. We'll look at it next coming up. Again, don't know what the records, nobody knows what the records are going to be, but this is what we think the level of the competition will be in levels 3 and 4, and then 1 and 2. But we'll look at 3 and 4 in the SEC when we come back as we're talking sports with me, Chris Powers. Jonathan's in the house. Marty's in the house. Back after this time out right here on Pelican Sports TV.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouget. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouget today.
For a lot of people, going to the dentist brings anxiety. It can feel cold, rushed, even intimidating. We get it. That's why we built something different. We take the time, we listen, we know your name and your story because you're more than just a patient, you're family. You don't have to dread the dentist. You just need the right one. Call or visit FougetFamilyDentistry.com to schedule.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. Proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars. All right, welcome back, everybody. And football season obviously is here. That's the most biggest time, even South Louisiana. I mean, it's huge. And the South, period. No question about that as SEC teams going all around. Jonathan, are you happy with 16 teams in the SEC here?
Yeah, I guess I am, Chris. I like the additions in Texas and Oklahoma. Maybe take out a Vanderbilt and add another one, possibly Florida State. But look, everybody wants to be in the SEC because that's the money conference. I think they've won more championships in the last 10 years than the other conference, obviously. But it's been, 4 out of the last 6. Ohio State's been in the number, but for the most part, SEC has dominated college football for this past decade. And it's only getting stronger. Lots of good competition. The NIL money has made it even better. Everybody wants to come play for the best. And it really created a very strong SEC. And look, the gauntlet is even stronger than it ever has been. So just surviving week in and week out in the SEC without getting players hurt is a tough enough task. Hopefully LSU has enough depth to keep Garrett Nussmeier and Caden Durham on their feet because that's going to be the key to the season, Chris. Got to keep Nussmeier on his feet.
No question about that. And obviously with all the college football in the SEC has the top matchups, period. Not only with conference to conference, but also in the top 25. I mean, so it's absolutely crazy the tough rankings that have come out that the SEC is going to play this year, including week 1, obviously. Texas being in the SEC, big matchup with Ohio State, and then obviously LSU and Clemson. I mean, it's going to be huge. 2 SEC teams that are in the top 10 right off the bat. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. We broke down the top tiers in college football. So it takes 4 with 16 teams, the top 3 and 4 tiers right here in the SEC, and this is what we found out. All right, we begin with Tier 4. These are teams that will finish from the middle to the last. First start Mississippi State. They had the most transfers out of Starkville than any other team in the SEC. Quarterback Blake Shapen returns, but that's it. Their schedule is the second toughest in the SEC for 2025. Opposing opponents last year had a 66% of games they've won last year. At Southern Mississippi, also home games at Northern Illinois and Alcorn State might be their only wins overall as they travel to Texas A&M, Florida, and Missouri. They also host Tennessee, Texas, Georgia, and Ole Miss at 11 a.m. on Black Friday, and nobody is happy about Black Friday being at 11 a.m. Or correction, the Egg Bowl at being at 11 a.m. That's absolutely ridiculous. Both Ole Miss and Mississippi State fans are crying about that. That's TV that dictated that. 11 a.m. on Black Friday, that's absurd. Another team that I think is going to be in Tier 4, this one's, to me, easy, Arkansas. I was shocked when they gave Sam Pittman another year. Great offensive line coach, but he is 30-31 in 5 seasons for the Razorbacks. They have some transfers, and this team is a team that won't win a championship but could play a spoiler a time or two this season. Arkansas, though, has the toughest schedule in the SEC. Number 1, hardest schedule. Last year's opponent had a 68% winning percentage. They travel to LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas, as they'll host Notre Dame, Texas A&M, Auburn, Mississippi State, Missouri, as well as an easy home game with Alabama A&M and Arkansas State. Another team I think is in the Tier 4 is Vanderbilt. Yes, this one might shock you, but I don't see the same magic as last year. They lost 3 out of their last 4 games from last year, but surprised Georgia Tech in the Birmingham Bowl with a 35-27 victory. Head coach Clark Lee has the luxury of quarterback Diego Pavia back for another season along with tight end Eli Showers. They do have 14 total returners from last season. So this could be wrong. They could be in the Tier 3, but I don't look for them to go any higher than that. They do have 14 total returners from last season, so they have the 10th toughest schedule in the SEC with a trip to Virginia Tech to open the season and to South Carolina. They'll go to Alabama, Texas, and Tennessee. They'll host LSU, Auburn, and Kentucky for their refurbished stadium they have in Nashville. And the last team in Tier 4, I got the Kentucky Wildcats. This thing, that keeps this team from the next level is their strength of schedule with the third hardest in the SEC. Their opponents won 65% of their games last season, and they host Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. They travel to Georgia, Auburn, Vandy, and Louisville. They did get Texas A&M transfer quarterback in Zach Calzada and wide receiver from Alabama, Kendrick Law, but they have very inexperienced offensive line. They were 4-8 last year. I don't see much improvement for them teams for this year. So again, in Tier 4, it's Mississippi State, Arkansas, Vandy, and Kentucky. All right, now let's move to Tier 3. This might be some sleepers here that can move up to Tier 2, but they're not going to win a championship. I'll start with Missouri. They got Penn State transfer quarterback and Bo Pribula. Remember, he left the Nittany Lions before the playoffs. He comes in along with ULM running back Ahmad Hardy, and on defense, players like Arkansas safety Jalen Catalon and the University of Georgia 5-star linebacker Damon Wilson might help on the worst defense in the SEC last year. They are tied with Tennessee for the easiest schedule in the SEC with their opponents last year at 50% winning percentage. They host Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana Raging Cajuns, South Carolina, UMass, Alabama, Texas A&M, and Mississippi State. So big home games for them over in Missouri. Now, road games will include Auburn, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. That's why they are 15th, tied for 15th with Tennessee, and the easiest schedule, really, in the SEC. Absolutely unbelievable. All right, next team in this Tier 3 is the Auburn Tigers. They might shock some teams this year and move up to Tier 2, but they have to get their offense and defense to play at the high level. They have Oklahoma transfer quarterback Jackson Arnold throwing to the best wide receivers in the SEC, but will they get their timing down? When will they get their timing down? Keandre Smith and Eric Singleton will get over 1,000 yards each this season because they haven't, at all previous, and their offensive line could be the strongest in the SEC. Their defense was good last season in most spots and is expected to be better this season. They have the 12th hardest schedule in the SEC, which will help to possibly get this team to the next tier. They travel to Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt as they host Georgia, Missouri, Kentucky, and Alabama in the Iron Bowl. The next team in Tier 3 is the Texas A&M Aggies. I know that's kind of shocking. They could be a Tier 2 team, but I do think they will be a Tier 3 team because they have 14 new players thanks to the transfer portal, including a lot of skilled position players, but they lost a lot. Wide receivers, their biggest change from last season is returning quarterback Marcel Reed. Could struggle passing the football because of the new wide receivers, but he's still a threat to run. He's a dual threat. Mike Elko had a defense that had most tackles for losses last season, and that looks to be good again this year with linebacker Teran York coming back. The Aggies have the 4th hardest schedule in the SEC, though, with road games in Baton Rouge, and they have never won in Tiger Stadium since joining the conference. They also travel to Notre Dame, Arkansas, and Texas, and they host Auburn, Mississippi State, Florida, and South Carolina at Texas A&M. Another team I've got, the last team in Tier 3, might shock you, the Tennessee Volunteers. I think this is a solid pick because of the massive blow of quarterback Nico leaving for UCLA in the spring. They went and got UCLA transfer quarterback Joey Aguilar, but he won't be that effective at all. The psyche of this team could suffer early in the season as they have relatively an easy schedule, as they're, again, tied for 15th with Missouri as the easiest schedule in the SEC. The strength of this team will be their defense. James Pierce Jr. and Will Brooks return at linebacker. They'll play at Syracuse and Atlanta. Also travel to Alabama, Kentucky, and Florida. They host Georgia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, and New Mexico State. And don't forget, they also lost their Louisiana native running back in Dylan Sampson as well. So a lot of shoes to fill here at Tennessee. I don't know how good they are going to be in 2025. All right, so that's what I think is going to happen with tiers 3 and 4. Again, hard to say what's going to happen on the schedules and with the records and what have you. No one can predict that. We can only see about it. I think it's going to be between Arkansas and Mississippi State as the dead last teams. A lot of people think Mississippi State will be more improved this year, and they could be because they can't get any worse than what they have. But I think that's what's going to be the case in that situation. I mean, let's face it, there's not a lot of recruits going in that way. They lost a lot of recruits, a lot of transfers out of there. Stoops is a good coordinator, I think, and he can have some magical years here and there. Championship level team, I don't think he ever will. That's why I think Kentucky's going to be in that 4 tier. I really do. I think when people play against Kentucky, that's what they do. And I think that with Vanderbilt last year, I think they will be back to either a 3 or a 4 tier. But I do think that Vanderbilt, that people now are more, aware of what Vanderbilt can bring to the table, and that's the deal. I mean, they upset Alabama last year in Nashville. They went nuts over that, brought the goalpost into the Cumberland River, right. and stuff of that nature. So I think it's great that happens, but like LSU had no problem with Vanderbilt last year when they played Tiger Stadium. Now this year LSU goes to Vanderbilt. Could it be a tougher situation? I don't know. Now, their stadium is going to be new. But one thing they better have, Jonathan, they better have more beer than ever before, because last time they went, Vanderbilt ran out of beer. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Chris, and Vanderbilt's not going to sneak up on anybody this season, like you already said. Bringing back the quarterback, Diego Pavia, a kid that has lots of talent. It hurt you with his feet and with his arm. Upset Alabama last year. A great series on Netflix, SEC, Any Given Saturday. They kind of detailed the whole thing. So Vanderbilt's not going to sneak up on anybody this season. You mentioned they played LSU last year, and LSU handled business. But look, they're going to get everybody's best shot now. There is no pushovers left in the SEC. Vanderbilt's improved. Kentucky's improved. Somebody's going to win. Somebody's going to lose. It's going to be a fist fight each and every Saturday. So you better strap it up tight and get ready for some big hits, because it's going to be a very physical league this year. Everybody has expectations for the playoffs, so there is no easy week in the SEC. And the bottom tiers being that competitive just is proof of that.
No question about that. All right, when we come back, who makes tiers 1 and 2? We'll find that when we come back as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan in the house, Marty's in the house. Back after this time out right here on Pelican Sports TV. If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs, because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats. The flavor says it all.
Growing up in this office, I saw what made it different. My dad knew every name, every story. He made people feel comfortable even when they were nervous. And I learned something important. When you treat people like family, they remember it. That's how we've grown, through referrals, relationships, and real trust. That's the kind of care I believe in, and it's exactly what you'll find here at Frugier Family Dentistry. Frugier Family Dentistry, rooted in family, focused on you. Call or visit FrugierFamilyDentistry.com to schedule.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody, as we continue to talk sports with me, Chris Powers, Jonathan in the house, also Marty in the house. We are here talking about the SEC. We have already looked at tiers 3 and 4. Now it's time to take a look at tiers 1 and 2, who we think are going to be the teams that could possibly win a championship. I think you could have some tier 2 teams go into tier 1, and with that tier 1 team, any one of those teams can win a championship. There's no question about that, the SEC title game. There's no doubt about that. I think Georgia's a little down this year. Texas, their first game. So Texas and LSU are in the same boat. They got 2 top 10 matchups on the road. And it's not going to be easy at Ohio State, and it's not going to be easy at Clemson. But they can still win a national title with 1 loss. They can still go to the playoffs with 1 loss, even 2 losses. We've seen that last year. So it's not the totally end of the world, even though that LSU fans are sick and tired of them losing in the first game. What will happen if LSU does lose the first game? Where does LSU rank, we think, in the top 1 and 2 tiers? Let's find out as we discover tiers 1 and 2 in the SEC right here. All right, the first team in tier 2, give me the Oklahoma Sooners. Something is wrong here when they have 4 5-star quarterbacks have left Norman. I think Venables is an excellent defensive coordinator, and we're going to get a chance to see that again this year too, because he's going to be calling the defensive plays. Until Oklahoma gets serious about spending big money on the top-notch coach, you're going to continue to get this kind of ranking. They get some new personnel. Venables, as we mentioned, will be the defensive coordinator, kind of in a way. He'll call defensive plays. And offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle, new offensive coordinator, comes in as the play caller and quarterback coach. They have a new quarterback, and he should be a star one day, in John Mateer, and he'll be behind a mature and strong offensive line. But the wide receiver room has huge question marks. How long will it take them to get the new offensive scheme? The defense should be strong with Marvin Jones Jr. returning on defensive line, and linebackers could be the best in the SEC with Kip Lewis and Kobe McKenzie as well as Kendall Davis. The cornerbacks will be the weakest link to this team. The Sooners have the 5th hardest schedule in the SEC with home games with LSU, Auburn, Ole Miss, and Missouri. Road games will be in Temple, and, of course, they'll play, in Dallas, Texas, against the Texas Longhorns in the Red River rivalry, and they'll go and play at South Carolina, Tennessee, and they'll also travel to Alabama this year. Another team I think will be right there on tier 2 will be the Florida Gators. Now, how much will the Gators improve this year? This could be a coach distraction, meaning that when Napier loses his first game, the fans will start chattering early. And that first tough game is in Baton Rouge against LSU and Tiger Stadium on September 13th, because they open with 2 easy home wins in Long Island U and South Florida and the Bulls. They have the 7th hardest schedule in the SEC with road games with Miami, Texas A&M, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Georgia in Jacksonville, of course. Home games include Texas, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and Florida State. The Gators will have quarterback and DJ Lagway back as he'll throw to wide receivers Dallas Wilson, who had a good spring, along with UCLA transfer and J. Michael Sturdivant, and Eugene Wilson III will give him good targets. The question mark comes at defense, though, which might keep them from being in Tier 1. South Carolina also will be, I think, in Tier 2. Lenoria Sellers is back, and if he stays healthy, could be a huge plus for this team. Their offense will be good, but they have transfer wide receivers for the Gamecocks and waiting for an NCAA to clear Rashall Faison from Utah State. The defense gets Dylan Stewart, defensive end, back, but lost half of their defense to the draft and eligibility. South Carolina has the 8th toughest schedule in the SEC, including a trip to Baton Rouge to play LSU, as the Gamecocks will be looking to, forward to that game to get momentum because they felt that LSU stole one in Columbia, South Carolina last year. I don't think so. I'd tell you if I thought LSU lost that game. I don't think LSU played their best game. They had to come back and win that game. However, I think the roughing the passer call was correct, and a couple of other calls I think were correct that South Carolina said that was not. But I'm watching game film, and I'm seeing it. I'm telling you that was the case on that. So they're going to, again, play at LSU in Baton Rouge. They haven't won in years in Baton Rouge. They also open with Virginia Tech and Atlanta. They play Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson, all at home, and they travel to Ole Miss and Texas A&M. And the last team in Tier 2 this year will be the Ole Miss Rebels. Yeah, new quarterback in Austin Simmons will be the biggest factor for them getting to that next level. They have a lot of shoes to fill, and not just a quarterback, but wide receiver as well. Once again, they had the top 5 transfer classes. They got 29 new players to rebuild. They have several holes to fill at cornerback, safety, as well as defensive line could be the strength of this team. They have 14th hardest schedule in the SEC with home games with LSU, as the Tigers haven't won in Oxford since 2019. That's the year they won the national championship. Other home games include Arkansas, Tulane, Washington State, South Carolina, and Florida. They'll travel to Kentucky, Georgia, Oklahoma, and Mississippi State. So that is Tier 2. Again, those teams are the Oklahoma Sooners, Florida Gators, South Carolina Gamecocks, and the Ole Miss Rebels. Now, we're into Tier 1. Any of these teams could win the SEC championship and could be in the SEC title game. We'll start with the LSU Tigers. The 2 biggest question marks this year is, of course, the first one, the offensive line, as the Tigers have to replace 4 offensive linemen and 5 if you count tight end Mason Taylor, because he was a good blocking tight end. Garrett Nussmeier will be good if the offensive line can protect him. He'll be in New York for another Heisman run if they can. The other question mark for the Tigers will be so many new transfers. How long will it take them to get to be one big unit? Nussmeier will have Aaron Anderson to throw to. He also could be a potential Heisman Trophy candidate because he is a very good wide receiver. And if them two get on the same page, Aaron Anderson could have a huge, huge year. Look out for Barron Brown, of course, from University of Kentucky. He's a transfer. Nick Anderson, Chris Hilton Jr., and Xavier Thomas. You got to find a way to get the ball to Xavier Thomas. That big frame, I'd really use him in the red zone big time. Could he go back to tight end? But anyway, I mean, he could be staying at that wide receiver spot. He is a very good, talented receiver and a bright star in the National Football League soon, I'm sure. Hey, the running back room will be stacked with massive talent in Caden Durham and freshmen Harlan Berry and J.T. Lindsey. Caleb Jackson, don't forget, he's back, and he didn't transfer. He had a sophomore slump last season. Hopefully he'll be back this year in good condition. Defensively, defensive ends Peyton and Pyburn will be pressure on the quarterback. They're going to be great at that defensive end spot. DJ Pickett will be a star at the cornerback spot. Harold Perkins Jr. is back along with West Weeks and Davin Keeves at linebacker and star-studded safeties in A.J. Halsey and Tamarcus Cooley. Look out, because LSU could be a big factor. But again, how are they going to put all this together? You remember when I think about transfer portals, when you're a brand new team like that, you got to put it all together. You got to have cohesiveness, and you got to do it quick. LSU is the 6th hardest schedule in the SEC as the Tigers open up with another hard road game with Clemson. The Tigers also travel to Ole Miss, Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma. Home games will be at Tiger Stadium with Florida, Southeastern, Louisiana Tech, South Carolina, Texas A&M, and Arkansas. Another team in the Tier 1 that could win a championship is the Alabama Crimson Tide. This team could fall back to Tier 2, though, because eventually this team will not always be in the group at Tier 1 and everybody thinks is going to win. But head coach Kalen DeBoer is a good coach, and he wins everywhere he goes on any level. He'll have a new quarterback this year with either Ty Simpson, Billy Edwards Jr., Austin Mack, or Keelan Russell. But word is that it's going to be Billy Edwards Jr. He is the transfer from Maryland. Ryan Gruber joins DeBoer as the new offensive coordinator after spending a season as offensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks in the NFL. He spent 2 seasons with DeBoer at University of Washington, of course, bringing them to the national championship game just 2 years ago. Wide receivers are stacked and should have good wide receivers here. The offensive line should be better. The defense will be a big factor. When have we last time we've said the defense could be the weakest link to this Crimson Tide football team? That's crazy. But they could struggle with yards and points this year, giving up most yards and most points. They have the 11th hardest schedule in the SEC with a home game with LSU, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Auburn in the Iron Bowl, and a big road game with Georgia, Florida State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. So that's their road games again, Georgia, Florida State, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt. All right, the Georgia Bulldogs come in as Tier 1, but this might be a stretch. We could have We could have an Ole Miss or Florida could take their place here. I know what you're saying. That's crazy. They have to play with a new quarterback in Gunnar Stockton, even though he had to play early last season because of the injury to Carson Beck, who is now in Miami. 15 players were drafted by the NFL, and it's a lot of shoes to fill here. This could be a question mark team for the first time in 4 seasons. The Bulldogs had a strong recruiting class, so let's not write them off totally yet. They have the 9th hardest schedule in the SEC with 3 big home games with Alabama, Texas, and Ole Miss. They also travel to Tennessee. They go to Jacksonville, of course, to play University of Florida, as well as playing at Auburn. And a team I think is going to be there, of course, is the Texas Longhorns. The Longhorns made it to the SEC Championship in their first season and could make it again. The Houston Chronicle claims that they've spent $35 to $40 million on their roster and will start the highest paid player in the NIL era in New Orleans' own Arch Manning. Now, Manning will have 4 new offensive linemen, just like LSU, and will have to replace 3 wide receivers. On defense, the Longhorns will have to replace several defensive linemen, DBs, and other key players from last year's team that made it to the playoffs. Now, the big factor might help them is they have the 13th hardest schedule in the SEC. But they'll get an early test when they go to Ohio State and play the Big Horseshoe. They also have to travel to Florida, Kentucky, Mississippi State, and Georgia. They'll host Texas A&M, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and don't forget about going to Dallas to play Oklahoma in the Red River rivalry. And that Tier 1, again, is LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and Texas for the SEC in 2025. And I think, Jonathan, you'll agree with me, those 4 teams right there, any one of them have an opportunity, and that's what the AP voters think as well, with LSU, Georgia, Texas, and Alabama. They have Texas as the number 1 team in the nation. Now, there are reports coming out of Austin that Manning is struggling a little bit. I mean, this is something that's going to be interesting to see. When you say he's struggling, that's kind of hard to believe because of the fact is that, again, nobody can touch him. But, again, they're saying he's struggling a little bit. That'll be interesting to see how that happens when he gets the game-time situation. Now, we don't know if it's true what Archie Manning said, that he's going to play another year at Texas. And we've said that before that. I don't foresee him going to the National Football League after 1 year of playing in college football. Their family's too classy for that. But I do think that any one of those 4 teams, and 2 of those 4 will be playing in the SEC championship. And I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a surprise anywhere. The only thing that could be something, a road bump in there, would be when Alabama goes to Georgia in Athens. I think it's going to be a big game. I think it's going to determine who gets out of that Tier 1. I think the loser of that game is going to be out of Tier 1. And, you know, when Georgia started winning those national titles, we thought they were going to make a run like Alabama. And right now they're not. They're not making that championship. Now they haven't won the championship in 2 seasons. This will be 3 if they don't do it again this year. So that's how competitive the SEC is. But your thoughts on the Tier 1, 4 teams, and they end up that way. All 4 of them are in the top 10 of the AP 25, and just about every top 25 poll that's out there in the SEC ought to be a 4-horse race.
Yeah, I completely agree, Chris. And in my opinion, out of those 4 teams, which I agree, those 4 teams are going to represent, one of those 4 teams is going to represent the SEC in the championship, national championship, not just the SEC championship. But it's going to come down to quarterback play. Nussmeier, Arch Manning, of course, Carson Beck left Georgia for greener pastures. But, yeah, in my opinion, Arch Manning and Gary Nussmeier are going to be 1A and 1B in the SEC. I also had Lenore Sellers being in that top tier of SEC quarterbacks. But to me, it comes down to it comes down to quarterback play. Thankfully for LSU, Nussmeier got that full year of starting under his belt last season. Of course, Arch Manning did come in last year. Kilman Ewers had an injury for a little bit. He also came into some mop-up time. And, look, Arch Manning has every gift you could possibly want for your starting quarterback, including the intangibles of what's between his ears, how he thinks about the game, how he sees the game, is how he was brought up to think about the game. But I'll take Garrett Nussmeier, and I'll tell you why. Garrett Nussmeier waited his turn in a way that no other quarterback that we're speaking of right now had to. He was going to be the guy in his sophomore year. They bring in Joe Burrow. They bring in Jane Daniels. He just waits and waits and waits and waits. Comes back after he could have went in the 3rd round last year in the NFL draft without a doubt. Might have been able to play for his dad. I mean, how cool would that have been to have Garrett Nussmeier in the Saints uniform, Doug Nussmeier calling the plays? But this guy waited his turn, never complained. He was best friends with Jaden Daniels. Every time Jaden Daniels came off the field, Garrett Nussmeier was the first one to congratulate him. All of his teammates look at him as this is the guy. You know, he plays with a great head on his shoulder, so he's a leader on the field but also off the field. Brings his offensive line out to eat, goes, Bible study. You name it. This guy is the leader of this football team, and if that's your quarterback, that's usually a very good team. So give me Garrett Nussmeier and that LSU offense every day of the week and twice on Saturday. And I think LSU will represent the SEC and hopefully keep Garrett Nussmeier healthy and make a run all the way to that championship.
Yeah, I think their depth is unbelievable, off the charts. The only problem I've got since 2018 when the transfer portal happened, no team has won a national championship. Now, there's got to be a first one. There's going to be some down the line. There's got to be a first one. Will it be LSU with the number one transfer team coming in for this season? They've got depth. They've got players that played last year that are now grown up that are playing this year. They didn't have a lot of transfer portal people that left LSU. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. Blake Baker is going to be in his second season on defense. I think their defense will improve. I think Nussmeier is going to improve. I think he's going to have more yards than just the 4,000 yards that he had this year. He could get over 5 possibly because he's got a hell of a receiving crew. And he's got good tight ends. I think all in all is going to depend on how much time he has to throw the football. Is he going to have to rush the football with the offensive line? That's going to be interesting to see. There's not a lot of talk about the offensive line for practice and all that stuff. Every now and then there's questions and what have you. Kelly don't spend a lot of time on it. So what will the offensive line look at? And when they played that Clemson Tigers, that's one of their strengths on defense is the defensive line. So it's their defensive line against our young offensive line, inexperienced offensive line. It's going to be great. I think that first game will not tell the tale. I do not think that will tell the tale. I think LSU could lose that first game. As long as their psyche is up, I think LSU will be fine. But if LSU loses that first game, there'll be people calling for Brian Kelly's head. There'll be people the players will be second-guessing themselves maybe. I don't know. Now, I'll tell you this. If they go in and pistol whip Clemson, who is a top 5 team, then everybody's going to be on that bandwagon like crazy. And I tend to look at I'd rather play as an underdog than someone who's over hyped like crazy, but we'll see what happens. I have confidence in Brian Kelly. I may be the only one in Baton Rouge. I think most people do have confidence in Brian Kelly. I think there's just people that get on social media that are armchair quarterbacks that I wish would be a fan of somebody else. Go be Ole Miss's fan, would you? But the thing about it is, I think that the thing about it is, I think that Kelly can put a good team together. Will it be this year? And I don't want to hear the comparisons that every coach did it in 4 years when they won the national title. This day and age, like college baseball was with Skip Bertman, this day and age is different. Nick Saban couldn't win a title every 4 years, I don't think. I think it's totally, totally different. I really do. I think football is in a different mindset, and it's going to be even more and more and more. You could go far and few between before you see another national title 2 years in a row. All right, when we come back, we're talking Saints football. The New Orleans Saints have their first preseason game. That's when you get that game-time atmosphere where you get to see how they're like, even though the starters didn't play. We'll talk about that when we come back as we're talking sports with Chris Powers right here on Pelican Sports TV.
You can't smell it, but you can almost taste it. And whether it's for a family get-together or a game day feast, having Manda in the mix always sounds good. For 3 generations, their quality meats and original seasonings have made Manda a Louisiana legend and made their family sausage Louisiana's family sausage. Manda Fine Meats, the flavor says it all.
We're a nation of hardworking Americans, and businesses will always be the lifeline of this great country. As a business owner, you understand the importance of your reputation. In times of uncertainty, you need a real lawyer who's serious about protecting you and your business. You need a problem solver. You need the law firm of Clayton and Fouger. Tony Clayton is a proven trial lawyer. He'll defend you and your business to the fullest extent of the law. Protect your investment and call the law firm of Clayton and Fouger today.
Live and play on the fairway at Greystone Golf and Country Club, a serene, challenging golf destination located in Denham Springs. For tee times and membership opportunities, go to GreystoneCountryClub.com.
If you're a wing lover like me, you already know where the best and biggest wings in Baton Rouge are. TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10. But did you know they also provide some of the best catering in town? Yeah. Their catering packages are custom built for parties and tailgates and overflowing with the tastiest barbecue you can find. Whether you go with the MVP package, the Heisman, or the Natty, you can't go wrong with TJ Ribs because it's not just jumbo wings. They serve up truly tender beef brisket, perfectly roasted pulled pork, and smoky fall-off-the-bone baby back ribs. Don't forget the savory sausage and chopped beef. Come on down to TJ Ribs on Acadian and I-10, proud sponsors of the LSU Tigers and the Southern University Jaguars. All right, like I said earlier, you know, when it comes to quarterback play, I've been around people saying, "Oh, you got to watch the quarterback. Man, he looked great in practice. He looked good in the scrimmage. He has a red, yellow, or green jersey on. Nobody can get near him." We've said that a million times on this show. What is it going to be like in game time situation when he can get rocked? And we saw how the three quarterbacks are. I thought Shuck, first of all, went 15 out of 22, 7 incompleted passes, 165-yard in the first game that he played as a pro, 1 touchdown. That's after he threw a pick 6. That touchdown went 54 yards to Mason Tipton. Rattler went 7 out of 11 for 53 yards. Let's go back to Shuck, though, first. I thought Shuck made good decisions. Kind of towards the end, he held on to the football a little bit, but again, he didn't have any of his wide receivers that are starting. Brandon Cooks wasn't there playing. None of the guys, Olave, none of them. Shaheed, none of them were playing in that game. Okay? So that'll be different. That's the only thing that gets me about timing. How can you get your timing down in game time situations where they're not going to play? That's how the NFL, I think, is messed up with 3 preseason games. And like Jonathan and I were talking earlier, when Goodell gets his way with 18 regular season games, that's going to cut it down to 2 preseason games. So what you do with the 3 preseason games, what fans don't think about is that's what coaches find out. Who you get your timing down for 1 preseason game. Remember, it was preseason game number 3. And then you get your other players and who's going to make your 53-man roster. That's when you find out that's what's going to happen. Well, you can't do that with 3 preseason games and get your timing in from your players. So with that, I thought Shuck looked the best out of all 3. Rattler was 7 out of 11 for 53 yards and lost a fumble. I think the same thing he did last year. When he gets in a game time situation, he gets flustered and he can't throw the ball. He holds onto the ball too long. He's playing backyard football, waiting for a guy to open up instead of throwing to the guy to open up. So I think out of those 3, no question, and Haener, 5 out of 8 for 41 yards. The only way he's going to stay on the team as a third quarterback, emergency quarterback, is that quarterback, that emergency quarterback does not count to the 53-man roster. It does not. The only time he can get in the game is if your quarterback 1 goes down, injured or suspended, and same thing with the second-string quarterback, then he can come into the ballgame. So he has to dress out. But I always thought, hey, you got to Taysom Hill that's going to play eventually, and he can play quarterback. Not every down quarterback, but you can come in the backup situation. So really the Saints have 4 quarterbacks on this football team. I thought the defense was flying around like crazy in the first quarter especially, and in the first half they looked good. In the second half, I thought they didn't look as good, but that's the kind of the players that won't make the team. There'll be some third strings, but mainly they won't make the football team. But again, they only allowed 248 total yards for the Chargers in that game. But notice Herbert obviously is not going to play in that game. The bad things that happened in that game for me, the Saints had 3 turnovers in the ball game. 3 turnovers in that game. That can't happen. They had 7 penalties in the game. But what's a positive thing on this? They had 6 in the first half. They had 1 in the second half. Total 56 yards. So that a little was a bit better. After they had the 6 penalties, I was worried about discipline like we had the last 3 years with Allen. But we did better. 1 penalty in the second half. The Saints will host the Jaguars on Sunday at 12 noon in the Superdome. They play the next 4 games in the Superdome. 2 preseasons and 2 regular season games. Jonathan, what were your thoughts on the Saints?
Yeah, Chris watched the whole game. I was encouraged by the offensive line, especially early in the game. I noticed that Calvin Banks stayed in the game for a very long time. Played next to Trevor Penning, and they did a pretty good job, especially in the run game, and that was encouraging. Thought Kendre Miller, in absence of Alvin Kamara, did a fine job with the running back spot.
Yep.
I think he's going to gain a lot of yards for the Saints. He can run it inside and outside, and he can catch the ball. One area of concern for me for the Saints, that wide receiver core. And I know, Olave wasn't there. Saw Cooks for a very short time. Shaheed really wasn't involved, but it's concerning when you have Austin Pettis returning punts. The guy doesn't scare any defense or special teams, I promise you that. There didn't seem to be like that explosion. And I get you don't want to show everything in the first preseason game. And Kellen Moore, very creative play caller and play coach. Doug Nussmeier, done it for a long time. So that I'm okay with. I still think the Saints need to go grab a veteran wide receiver, somebody that's going to win a one-on-one matchup with a big body that can go over the middle. I haven't seen that with the guys they have available on the roster right now. Defensive line looked okay under Coach Brandon Staley. I think Brian Brissy, the big guy that was drafted early in the first round a couple years back, this is going to be a breakout year for him playing that true nose tackle. Saints added Chase Young back to the roster, gave him a big contract, so he has to have a big year. Cam Jordan, late in his playing days, will have to give him as best he can effort anyway to the inside. Excuse me, but Demario Davis going to be right in the middle of that linebacker. They love Stutzman. They love Blackman. They bringing him in for Justin Reed. And Quincy Riley, I thought, really had some spurts. So some good things at offensive line, but some bad things. That same old sputtering offense under Spencer Rattler. For me, the way too early to pick, but if I'm choosing after game one, I'm giving Shuck the start in game two.
Yeah, no question about that. Will Clapp looks like he's done for the year with a foot injury. He's going to have surgery. Looks like he's going to have surgery. So that looks like it's done for that. So we're going to have to sign another backup for that. And I hate that. Obviously, former LSU player. Trevor Penning also got injured, was carted out with no shoes on, was carted off of the sideline into the locker room. And the only thing that kind of scares me a little bit about that, nobody's mentioned anything about it, even as of today. Nobody's mentioned anything about Trevor Penning, about his injury or anything like that. Could he miss the rest of the preseason? I don't know. Is it bad? We don't know. They haven't mentioned anything about that. The Southern University Jaguars will play a week from this Saturday in Atlanta for the SWAC MEAC Challenge against North Carolina Central. That game will be at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on ABC National Television, and we'll have it on the radio network. They've been picked as the fourth team in the nation in the Box Pro Top 20 this week. Our offensive coordinator told me that first of all, the offensive line looking good. Also, Holly is looking good. Holly has got great vision, can find the gaps easy, and it's going to be interesting to see. He could be either that number one or number two running back, but he's going to get a lot of playing time. Jonathan thinks he's going to get that 1,000 yards. Southern hadn't had a 1,000-yard rusher in quite a while, so it could be interesting to see how that turns out. This could be the best team since 2016. I think they're loaded. This could be the best team. They were 8-3 that year, and they were 8-1 in the SWAC play. They scored 438 points in that game, in that season rather. 438 points in that season. We'll see. Depends on the quarterback play. I think the running backs will have a big season this year. North Carolina Central game will be huge to dictate how this is, because it's not like a Division I school, an FBS team. It's on their same level. It's just a SWAC team. a MEAC team. So it's going to be huge to them to see what happens. It looks like OLOL will be the sponsor of the new arena at LSU. The developer is almost set to go with that. That'll be where the old golf courses are across from Alec Box Stadium. That'll do it for this week's Talkin' Sports with me, Chris Powers. We'll catch you back again next week as game week next week right here. Till you see then.
Rocks and fires. Tommy White with it. Johnson heads to the